Welcome to the Numerology and the Astrology for May 20th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, you get the number 11. The number 11 is the number of transcendence and consciousness, awakening, spirituality, genius. It's willing to be a synthesizer of information. But the 11 can oftentimes separate, and you take the 1 and the 1 and you put them together and you end up with the 2, which can be negative mind or critical mind. In this time that we're in, I'm finding that we're doing a lot of expanding and contracting. So whenever you expand, eventually you freak yourself out and your ego goes, oh my God, what the hell are you doing? And then it tries to contract you back down into the old place. So it is difficult to expand, which is the number 11. And if you, at the same time, feel such contraction, which is the number 2, it feels right now like you're trying to breathe, but you cannot take in a full and deep breath. And then as you breathe out, you cannot fully let go and surrender either. You're sort of trapped in a vibration of shallow breathing like this. And it's not giving enough life fulfillment and also not releasing you either. So once again, I think that this is the feeling of the COVID-19 virus. So, energetically, like, I'm not sick. I've been in quarantine for 2 months. I haven't seen anybody. So I know I'm not sick, but it's this energetic feeling that is this, like people are gasping almost. They're gasping financially. They're gasping around jobs. They're gasping around the global economy. They're gasping around, am I going to pay my bills? Should I go out? The stress of going out when you're wearing an N95 mask and, the gloves and all of this stuff. And, I know that this has gone on for a long time for everybody. And I know that everyone out there is really sensitive to this global vibration that, is changing all of life as we know it. I know that, I have a tendency to energetically pick things up ahead of time. And I fear that this feeling is the COVID-19 suddenly rapidly expanding. And that concerns me greatly because, again, they're starting to open things up again. And so I wish for everyone to be safe and to protect themselves and their families. And perhaps this virus is showing us that we have been half alive, halfway breathing, asleep, and not fully awake to the raw and real truth. I hope that we continue to awaken. I hope that we come through this with a clarity that alters time and space. I pray that something will manifest unity rather than all of this hate. So, when the 11 is contracting hard, when the body and the mind and the ego are afraid of expansion, they tend to pit things into duality. It's like, well, I'm right and you're wrong and da-da-da-da-da. And I go, I want everybody to say everybody is right for everybody, but they're not necessarily right for you. But they're right for where they are in their life and the process that they're in, and they're learning lessons of attachment, they're learning lessons of letting go, they're learning lessons of trust, they're learning lessons of connecting to their own spirituality, they're learning lessons, on so many different levels, which is awesome. Okay, now, the astrology today. A few hours after the sun enters the quick-minded sign of Gemini, Venus makes a challenging aspect to Neptune, and it would be smart to get things done earlier on Wednesday so you can be quiet as the afternoon progresses. If you must have relationship conversations, make sure that the person you are talking to actually hears what you thought you said to avoid any misunderstanding, because tensions are high and do not provoke more intensity to happen. There's another minor challenging aspect to Saturn with Mercury, and there's a lot of hypersensitivity, negative thinking, and a desire to criticize. just don't do it. Don't fall into the trap. It is helpful if you are editing something important like a book or a story, or you're really trying to get into the detail of something very specific. Maybe you've got a list and you maybe need to go over and edit the list. Because as you go over anything under this astrology, the problem will be very obvious and therefore easier to fix, actually, which is the positive. The moon is in Taurus all day, and it makes your actions need to be deliberate and constant. You desire what is predictable and reliable, but there are other astrological patterns that will not really allow you to get that. The sun is going into Gemini, and it will be there until the 20th of June. And this is a time to seek more knowledge and diversity in our life. You might need to get out and get away. Communications can go off quickly. Keep options open, as there are lots of things that are going to scatter your energy. I expect your mind will have trouble adapting to the rapid fire changes happening in the world. Know that many people are not really reliable with this astrology, and it's not necessarily their fault. They're so spread out and they're so fractured and fragmented. It's really hard to make promises that you can keep. Do not put big expectations on anyone, especially if it's got a deadline. People are pulled in just too many directions to fit into any of your boxes. With the Venus-Neptune square, an old issue will resurface and you are challenged to understand. Your mind and feeling are making the obvious answer obscure. Really listen to that. Your mind and feelings are making the obvious answer obscure. Sit. Wait. Look for the raw and real truth. Let others have their process. You aren't going to have a choice anyway. The universe has a plan. We're all a part of that plan. I started noticing probably about 7 years ago that my father used to always say, have a backup plan. And, so I would have backup plans on backup plans on backup plans. And what I found was that none of the plans were really actually exactly working. They weren't coming through because we're shifting our vibration and we're shifting so many things that doing the old things by a standard rote are not going to work. And so you have to be willing to change the plan. You have to be willing to be super flexible and just keep being flexible. So my quote for today: what if the change comes too late? What if we are too lazy and afraid to demand what is right? What if the consequences from our lack of choosing is our demise? I fear for this world. I care for this world in ways that are deep and true. I care for it more than my own life. I know I'm not alone. But are there enough like me? Okay, so my blog for today. Needless to say, from the tone of this whole day, you can kind of tell that many feel stressed and out of sorts at the moment. So much is happening. It feels out of control, not normal, and clearly we are hitting a bunch of edges for many people. It's hard to know how to navigate so many that are feeling so much that is very valid. I wish for calm, but I know that calm is not happening in the external world. You are probably feeling trapped because of this quarantine. You are not alone. Many are unhappy, feeling off center, lacking calm, and not at peace. I pray for change that allows for something different to happen in this world. I am afraid that this very important change cannot come without massive and intense waves of upset. I keep trying to make the change as graceful as possible through warning, expanding awareness, and opening the possibilities. But too many are suffering for too long. And I know that when that happens, there is a line that gets crossed. And our lower stage selves surface. That they want what we want, and then they want it all right now. So it's sort of like, and that's the problem. So, number one, we cannot go back as much as we would want to. Number two, Terrible things have been happening and will continue to happen until there is a global snap point that ignites a type of anger that will initiate change. Number 3, many are afraid and do not know what they can count on in this world where there is nothing but constant disappointment, lies, and lack of support. When the people, animals, plants, and nature are not loved, not supported, and not cared for, there are few options, except a total collapse of the systems that are inflicting horror in the world without conscience. I fear for us. I fear for this world. I fear for those that are already suffering. I fear for the jobs that will never return. I fear that the shift will come too late and that the damage that has been done will be too much for an easy recovery. So, it's so important right now for everyone to really look honestly, where are you at financially? Where are you at on safety? Where are you at related to your work? How long can you go like this? What can you do differently? Are there any options that you can work with? And start really actively trying to do that. I think families obviously come together during these kinds of times and pull together and work together, which is really good. It's like I've been preparing for this moment for years. And so I've got my greenhouses and I've got my gardens and I've got my, compost piles and I've got my seeds going and I've got, things happening. And, it's not perfect, but it's something, it's a something. And so, really look at this time that we're in and, try to not let the fear paralyze you. Try to make that fear make you move. And recognize that there's something bubbling inside of each of us that is rising up. And it's going to come forth. I mean, there's no other option. What will be that ignition point? I don't know. I mean, I have suspicions, and if you read my predictions for 2020, you'll see what my suspicions are. But again, be safe with everyone, with yourself, really take care of yourself. Because all we have is each other, all we have is family, we all have to figure out how to do this together.